Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Nobody was around to hear it, but that's okay.
Yeah, it's a loud instrument, right?
We don't want to overdrive it.
Yeah.
Actually, you're surprised.
I know. I'm not worried about it. Whatever. We're just here for background noise, apparently. That's all good. Get how this goes. Oh, okay, never mind.
Washington Post.
I saw that.
Well done.
Got my vote.
Better do it quick.
This one and then
Yeah, we're doing well.
Good, we have Midway ready.
Midway. So let's put you midway and we can do it again.
Midway?
The song and everything was best laid plan.
Speaker isn't here. Speaker isn't here.
Vince is reading. Oh yeah. You know what he's supposed to say?
Okay. Midway.
you are welcome and you are free. We are united in prairie and sky, in mountain and ocean, in stories and time. This is our life. This is our land, free to be Canadian. Stand with the stalwart and the strong. Face in the struggle to right or wrong. Guard and protect this land we love. For all our daughters and all our sons. We are united, brave hearts entwined, with passion and peace for all of mankind. This is our life. This is our land, proud to be Canadian, proud to be
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome and thank you very much for coming and joining us here today for this very special day of remembrance. I'd ask you all to stand now, if able, for the marching on of the colors. 400 Squadron, march on the colors! Please remain standing for the playing of the national anthem. Please be seated. It's my pleasure at this time to introduce the President and CEO of Sunnybrook Health Sciences Centre, Dr. Andy Smith.
Good morning, everybody. Honored veterans, family members, special guests, staff, and volunteers. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Dr. Andy Smith. I'm the President and CEO here at Sunnybrook Health Sciences Centre. It is my absolute pleasure to be able to welcome you here today and to bring warm greetings from our Board of Trustees and the 12,000 staff, volunteers, physicians, and students who all work here at Sunnybrook. Today, November the 11th, is a day that has been set apart for the solemn remembrance of those who gave their lives for freedom's cause. We wear the red poppy in honor of our war dead. More than a symbolic gesture, remembrance is a heartfelt way to honor the brave men and women who have stood on guard for our country and the underlying values that define us. Sunnybrook has a long tradition of caring for Canada's war veterans. 73 years ago, the first sod was turned on the cornerstone for Sunnybrook Military Hospital, and the cornerstone was laid on November the 11th, 1944. In 1948, the hospital officially opened to care for soldiers, airmen, and seamen returning from the Second World War. Grand in stature, it was a symbol of a nation's gratitude to its war veterans. Today, we remain Canada's largest and foremost veterans care facility, and our staff pride themselves on providing compassionate, resident-centered care to our war heroes. To our veterans of World War II, the Korean War, and other conflicts and peacekeeping missions, we owe a debt that we cannot forget or repay. May we never forget, and may we, and all who follow, work to create a world of peace, compassion, and freedom. In closing, I would like to share a photo with you. And I know that people on the overflow can see this in a larger screen, and it's harder to see from here. I'm going to pass this around at the front, but if you strain your eyes and have a look at this picture, and I'd like to tell you about it. For 3 years, Michael Boyer, one of our veterans, had a goal to grow the Flanders Field poppy in the K-Wing Garden. Finally, in 2017, the 100th anniversary of Vimy Ridge, the seeds flourished, and there were beautiful red poppies in the back corner beside the waterfall, right up until yesterday's snowfall. We look forward to seeing these again when the warmer weather returns next year. Thank you for coming today and for sharing this very special ceremony with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Smith. We now have the pleasure of hearing veteran resident Nancy Keeping recite the poem In Flanders Fields.
In Flanders fields, the poppies blow between the crosses, row on row, that mark our place. And in the sky, the lark still bravely singing, fly, scarce heard amid the guns below. We are the dead. Short days ago, we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved. And now we lie in Flanders fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe. To you from failing ends we throw the torch. Be yours to hold it high. If ye break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders fields.
And now we get the pleasure to hear We Shall Keep the Faith, written by Mina Mitchell and recited by veteran resident Peggy Campbell.
We shall keep the faith. O you who sleep in Flanders field, sleep sweet to rise anew. We caught the torch you threw, and holding high we keep the faith with all who died. We cherish too the poppy red that grows on fields where valor led. It seems to signal to the skies that blood of heroes never dies, but lends a lustre to the red of the flower that blooms above the dead in Flanders fields. And now the torch and poppy red we wear in honor of our dead. Fear not that ye have died for naught. We'll teach the lesson that ye wrought in Flanders fields.
I now invite Chaplain Bill Ford to say the invocational prayer.
Let us pray. God of comfort, we have gathered here as a community of Sunnybrook veterans, families, and as a healthcare community on this day of remembrance, to remember and to give thanks. We give thanks for this country in which we live. On this 150th birthday, the blessings of which we so often take for granted. Open our eyes to see and appreciate the price that was paid for it. Let us never assume that we can have anything for nothing. We give thanks for those valiant hearts who, at the call of sovereign and country, laid down their lives in the cause of freedom, who laid down their lives for our sake, and whom you have gathered from the storm of war into the peace of your presence. We come today with hearts of reverence and thanksgiving as we recall service offered and sacrifices made. Let the memory of their devotion ever be an example to us. We pray that we may uphold the torch entrusted to us, so that their pursuit for the cause of peace and justice and their sacrifice may not have been in vain. We also pause to give thanks for our Sunnybrook veterans and those veterans across Ontario and throughout Canada whose unmeasured courage continues to inspire us and instill within us a deep sense of pride. We remember, too, our current servicemen and women who give of themselves for our country, those who are near at home and those who are abroad, who continue to keep our land glorious, strong, and free, and who strive to foster a world in which peace and freedom flourish. Let there be peace on earth, O God, and let it begin with each of us. Amen.
At this time, the Director of Operations here at Sunnybrook Veterans Center, Rhonda Galbraith, will read today's lesson.
This reading is from the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 3, verses 1 to 8. For everything there is a season, a time for every activity under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to harvest, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to tear down and a time to build up, a time to cry and a time to laugh, a time to grieve and a time to dance, a time to scatter stones and a time to gather stones, a time to embrace and a time to turn away, a time to search and a time to quit searching, and a time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to tear and a time to mend, and a time to be quiet and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time for war and a time for peace.
Our vocal selection today is entitled To Where You Are. Once again, we have the pleasure of having Mr. Scott Newlands sing it for us today.
You're still here. I feel you all around me. Your memory so clear. Deep in the stillness, I can hear you speak. You're still an inspiration. Can it be that you are mine? Watching over me from up above, fly me up to where you are beyond the distant storm. I wish upon tonight to see you smile, if only for a while, to know you're there. A breath away, it's not far to where you are. Are you gently sleeping here inside my dreams? And isn't faith believing our power can't be seen? As my heart holds you just one beat away, I cherish all you gave me every day. 'Cause you are mine. life forever long, watching me from up above. And I believe that angels breathe, and that love will live on and never leave. Fly me up to where you are beyond the distant sky. I wish upon tonight to see you smile, if only for a while, to know you're there. A breath away is not far to where you are. I know you're there. A breath away is not far to where you
Thank you, Scott. At this time, we invite Veterans Center Chaplain Jim Huth to say the dedicational prayer for the memorial wreaths.
Please join me in prayer. Faithful God of the ages, as we gather for this service of remembrance, our hearts are full of memories of friends, comrades, and loved ones. We are here today to remember and to pay honor to those who fell in battle, and those among us who offered themselves to fighting for a better world. Today, as symbols of our remembrance, we unite together as a community of Sunnybrook veterans, their families, and staff to offer these memorial wreaths in memory of those who gave the last full measure of their devotion and courage. We ask, O God, that all who gaze upon them would see more than circles of flower or ribbon. Rather, that we would be reminded of the deeper meaning of what they represent to us. We also ask that each wreath would help stir within the hearts of all Canadians humility, gratitude, and thanksgiving, and be challenged to know more. May these wreaths stand at the cenotaph and serve as beacons of remembrance to our surrounding Sunnybrook community. And may these wreaths be an inspiration to all Canadians of how we stand on the shoulders of the women and men who have gone before us, those who have prepared the way for us to enjoy the freedom that we have today, those who shared a resolve to make our world a better place, and those who continue to serve and sacrifice for that freedom. It is with a spirit of humility, dear God, on this November 11th, we now hereby dedicate these memorial wreaths to the lasting legacy of men and women who served and died for us and for our freedom. Amen.
The first wreath today will be presented on behalf of the Government of Canada by Rob Oliphant, Member of Parliament for Don Valley West. On behalf of Veterans Affairs Canada, Yemi Adekbai. On behalf of the people of Don Valley West, Rob Oliphant, Member of Parliament. Representing the Honourable Kathleen Wynne, Province of Ontario, and MPP Don Valley West, Wendy Weston. On behalf of the City of Toronto, Councillor Jay Robinson. On behalf of the Royal Canadian Legion Ontario Command, Comrade Derek Moore. In honor of World War I, Ted Haar. World War II, Harry Preston. behalf of the Korean veterans, Sai Padister. On behalf of the Merchant Navy, Harry Eiler. On behalf of the Afghanistan War veterans, Lieutenant Colonel Julian Bishop and Chief Warrant Officer Paul Nesbitt. On behalf of the Women's Armed Forces, Vera Morgan. On behalf of the Nursing Sisters Association, Lieutenant Commander Donna Murakami. On behalf of the Army, Navy, and Air Force veterans in Canada, Renee Lecaire. Royal Canadian Legion Tri-Districts A, B, and C, Chuck Johnson and Jack Porter. Officer Carly Hasselman. On behalf of 400 Tactical Helicopter Squadron, Lieutenant Colonel Jill Bishop and Honorary Colonel Patrick Curtis. On behalf of the War Amps of Canada, Robert Gondak and Al Bacon. On behalf of Sunnybrook Health Sciences Center, Dr. Jocelyn Charles. On behalf of the Canadian Red Cross Society, Jim Wilson and Audrey Wilson. On behalf of the Sunnybrook Health Sciences Center volunteers, Al Wallace. On behalf of the Toronto Paramedic Services, Gail Pollock. On behalf of Wives and Widows, Pearl Robbins and Rini Bazowski. And the final wreath today will be laid on behalf of the children by Robert McCrae, James McQuillan, and Robin True. The words to the next musical selection are in your programs. We ask you to, or invite you to sing along if you're able. Please rise if able for the singing of O God, Our Help in Ages Past. Please be seated. At the age of 14, Lieutenant Navy Poon began volunteering here at Sunnybrook Health Sciences Center and the Veterans Center. It wasn't long before he became the student team leader, heading up the wheelchair escort volunteer group on Sunday chapel services. During this time, he was a student at Don Mills Collegiate Institute. At 20, he joined HMCS York here in Toronto and is currently a naval warfare officer in the reserves. Lieutenant Navy Poon continued in his studies and did his undergraduate studies in nutrition sciences and human biology at the University of Toronto. He completed an honors program in specialized dietetics at the University of Western Ontario. Lieutenant Navy Poon also holds a master's in nutrition communication from Ryerson University. It's my pleasure at this time to invite Lieutenant Navy Poon to the podium.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's an honor to be here. I'm Lieutenant Navy Eric Poon, Reserve Naval Warfare Officer at HMCS York here in Toronto. It's an honor to be speaking to all of you, not only because of the significance of it being Remembrance Day, but also to speak from my heart as a volunteer here in this wing for over 13 years. I first started volunteering here at 14 years old as an air cadet, taking our veterans to church. I missed a lot of Sunday morning cartoons, but made a lot of friends here instead. I even got to know many of the family members here. And that's exactly what the Canadian Armed Forces is, a big family. I wish I could tell you all the sacrifices that they've made, but I can't. Even after enlisting and serving for over 9 years, I can't even begin to understand what it's like. They have sacrificed their lives for our country. And although many of them have come home safe, I say again, they've sacrificed their lives for our country. How many anniversaries, birthdays, and graduations have they missed? How many Thanksgiving and Christmas dinners have they spent away from family and with their brothers and sisters in arms abroad instead? We are a family that trust and support one another, and that will never change. Last year, my youngest brother joined as a naval intelligence officer, making him the last son in our family to join the service, beside myself and our eldest brother in the infantry. I'm happy to say that we are brothers by blood and service. Not only are we part of a family that immigrated from Hong Kong, we are honored that you've opened your arms to us as part of your military family. This is a special year for us. It marks the 100th anniversary of the Battle of Passchendaele, but it's also Canada's 150th birthday. And things have changed substantially since then. Canada is a cultural mosaic. Just look around. Our military is representative of our country, and I'm very happy to be a small part of it. We are a proud serving force that includes all ethnicities, religions, impairments, and sexual orientations. But that doesn't mean we've changed our core values, because we remember what our veterans fought for, and we will continue to do the same. With Toronto hosting the Invictus Games, we've made tremendous progress in appreciating and rehabilitating our veterans, something that Sunnybrook has been a pioneer for as long as I can remember. The Invictus Games is an example of how we can support our veterans through sport. I've been a volunteer here long enough to recognize the value of the garden nursery, the arts and crafts programs, performances, and therapy sessions, especially the annual retreat that they have here at Sunnybrook. I can only wish for similar programs to be offered to veterans outside of this facility. It gives our veterans an opportunity to live the lives that they gave up for us. For 13 years, I've been serving the men and women who have served me. Today, I am proud to wear our uniform as a promise. I promise you, my brothers and sisters, to never forget. I promise to put myself in harm's way if it means preserving the peace which you fought for. And I promise to inspire the next generation to do the same. And lastly, I promise to see you again. Even when all the poppies are put away and the Christmas decorations start to go up, I promise to put on my volunteer uniform and have a chat with you on our way to church. Thank you very much.
Our last reading today, titled The Final Journey, written by Gordon Grieve, will be recited by veteran resident Gordon Gwynn Timothy.
That's me? Then do I read this? Thank you. They made a lengthy journey to a foreign land, a place austere and barren to strengthen freedom's hand. They were young and able, loved ones they left behind, willing to do anything for the love of humankind. Spurred by valor and a call, they toiled and sacrificed, knowing that to do their tasks might cost their very lives. Considering the price they paid to heal a broken land, how can we ever turn our backs, refuse to take a stand? The families left must be assured our love will never wane, lest in their grief they ever think their loved ones died in vain. Those not called to journey to a foreign land are still called to love, to serve and strengthen others' hands. Status isn't serviced by medals or degrees from things we acquire, positions we achieve. Honor goes to those who love by sacrifices shown. So let us honor those who made their final journey home.
In a minute, I'll be asking you to stand, but first I'd like to introduce the musicians. Last Post will be played by Sarah Cannon. Lament will be played by retired Master Warrant Officer Terry Cleland from 400 Squadron, followed by A Moment of Silence, then Rouse, played by Kevin Major. I'd ask you all now to stand, if able, for the playing of these in respect of our fallen. Please remain standing if able as we invite retired Corporal Alexandria Beck to come up and sing God Save the Queen.
God save our gracious Queen, long live our noble Queen. God save the Queen, send her victorious, happy and glorious, long to reign over us. God save the Queen.
Thank you. Please be seated. Veteran Center Chaplain Jim Huth will now give the benediction.
As we have gathered here today for this service of remembrance, we have been reminded of past conflicts, past heroes, of fallen comrades, and loved ones who demonstrated personal devotion, courage amidst adversity, and those who gave of their lives to fight for a better world. Today we have honored our connection to them, along with fellow Canadian servicemen and women who continue to uphold the values of hope, justice, and opportunity within our world. May it be this day in which the light of peace breaks through clouds of darkness. May each one of us endeavor to be a light of peace to everyone in our daily lives. Today, let us recommit ourselves afresh to a renewed spirit of love, of mercy, and forgiveness. Let us enter tomorrow with a renewed spirit of service to one another and to continue to carry on the work of those we remember today and always. And together, let us embrace the future with a renewed spirit of peace and unity of mind and heart. Amen.
I'd like to now call on members of 400 Tactical Helicopter Squadron and 246 Royal Canadian Air Cadet Squadron to assemble the wreaths. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise if able for the marching off of the colors. 400 Squadron, march off the colors. Please be seated. Just one last small administrative point before we let you go. You're invited to attend the laying of the wreath memorial service out by the cenotaph. 400 Squadron and others will be forming up just outside of K-Wing here. We invite you to join us out there. And my last point is thank you very much for joining us on this very special Remembrance Day occasion. Have a great day, folks. Thank you.